Greg, all of my life I had tried to earn my dad's satisfaction and approval. I didn't really know why I was doing that, but I wanted to hear the words, "Son, I love you and I'm proud of you." My dad loved me, I knew that, but he just didn't outwardly show it. And toward the end of his life, I was with him in a garden in his nursing home. And I knew this would be, if not the last, one of my last visits with him. I was pushing him along and he motioned that he wanted to say something to me. He extended his hand and I thought I might hear, "Son, I love you and I'm proud of you," or words like that. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, but I just knew I wanted my dad's blessing. Instead, he said, "Son, it's been nice knowing you," and simply shook my hand. And those were the last real words that I ever heard from my dad. That pain stayed with me for years until a few years ago I was reading John Eldredge's book, Wild at Heart, and I came to chapter 4, which Eldredge calls the wound, the father wound. And I had never put a label to it, but it took me 3 times to get through that chapter without just breaking down and weeping, because I knew that's what I was suffering from. I had never received my father's blessing, and I wanted it. I wanted him to say, "Son, you can make it." As I became a Christian, I realized that God, the Heavenly Father, was my Father, and that He would give me this blessing that I had not received from my father. Now, if my father could do it over again and understand the importance, I'm sure he would, because he did love me. But the fact is, he didn't. And I determined that I was not going to make that same mistake. In Philippians 1:6, it says, "For I'm confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you will perfect it until the day of Jesus Christ." And that to me says that God had started a good work in me, and that I was up for the task that He would call me to do. As I grew in my Christian life, I realized that I needed some tools to accomplish this. Letters from Dad that I was introduced to about a year ago has given me the tools to implement the very things that I did not receive as a young man. I determined that I wanted to leave a legacy to my children, my wife, my grandchildren, and even my great-grandchildren. And to have something, I don't have a single letter today from my dad. Not only do I not have the verbal blessing, but what I would give for a letter from my dad telling me how proud he was and that I could make it, and that he was encouraging me in all the areas that a young man needs encouraging in. So I determined that I was going to start writing letters. With the help from Letters from Dad, we actually went through a program where we wrote individual letters to our wives. We wrote individual letters to our children on the very things that they were having problems with. And I received a blessing in return when I saw what it meant to them. If you're considering getting involved with Letters from Dad, or if you're already involved, but just all of the busy details of life are keeping you from writing these letters, do it. These letters will be a blessing that your children will have and that they can tangibly pass on to other people. And they won't just read them one time, they'll read them several times as they get into difficult spots. You'll experience the heart of the Father as God writes through you and encourages your wife, your children, and as you take these thoughts and put them down on paper, you will see that it will be a great blessing to others.